Under File and then Office Setup, there are default options that can be set for the functionality of the office. The first tab that will open will be the Office tab. This tab has the settings for the office location information. The practice provider can be set by clicking the gray box next to practice provider. You can choose from the provider list in MOGO. The practice address will automatically fill in. You will then need to select the office time zone. If the practice is not in the United States, the option to allow non-US zip codes would need to be enabled to allow special zip codes. If the office has multiple locations registered with MOGO, there is a setting to edit location information. Payments, interest, and tax will automatically be entered under the Set Practice Provider if any of these options are enabled. Under the Patient tab, you will set up the default provider for new patients. This option will automatically fill in the chosen default provider for new patients as that patient's provider in the patient information screen. The account type for all new patients can also be set. For example, if the office charges interest on balances for patients, it can be entered here. The interest is calculated in percentages based on months, so 1% would be I equals 12, 1.5%, I equals 18, etc. A default medical alert for each patient can be set here. On the Insurance tab is the option to choose the renewal date for insurance coverages. The gray box to the right brings up the calendar to choose the date. The default annual coverage amount can be set by clicking the gray box to the right of the field and entering the amount on the number pad. Below that is the default annual deductible, which is set in the same way. Benefit coordination gives the choice between standard or non-duplicating insurance plans. A standard plan will have primary and secondary insurances both fully cover estimated insurance balances. A non-duplication plan will set the primary and secondary insurances to only allow the primary to cover insurance estimates until it no longer has benefits. Once the benefits for the primary insurance are all used, the secondary insurance will estimate and take over payments from the primary. The option to use the office fee schedule when submitting insurance claims can be enabled, which will display the UCR fees on the claim instead of the group plan fees. The ability to apply the percentage of the deductible to be equal to the coverage percentage is the next option. If MOGO is set to apply the deductible after insurance benefits are calculated, it will calculate the percentage of coverage of the fee and the same percentage of the deductible. The percentage of the deductible will then be subtracted from the percentage of the fee to display the estimated insurance amount. Setting it to calculate benefits after the deductible is applied will calculate the percentage of coverage of the fee, then subtract the remaining deductible. The last option on the Insurance tab allows the office to disable full insurance tracking, which would stop any kind of insurance tracking in MOGO completely. This cannot be undone, so it is not recommended to check this box unless instructed to do so by MOGO support. Distribution settings for the transaction screen will be under the Distribution tab. Clicking onto any of these options will enable a certain function for payment distribution in MOGO. Linking all payments on the current date will set the date of the payment in the transaction screen to the current date when it is distributed. In MOGO, an overpayment or credit can be set to show the current date it is distributed on with the Link Overpayments on Current Date option selected. This option is automatically selected if the Link All Payments on the Current Date option is selected. An option to select a date in transactions will occur if this is not enabled. Enabling to save all payments to the practice provider will automatically assign the default practice provider to all payments entered. Saving all overpayments to the practice provider will automatically assign that provider to overpayments. If this is not selected, a prompt will ask which provider needs to be assigned. Just as with the date, if the Save All Payments option is checked, the Overpayment option will automatically be selected. Linking insurance payments to the patient balance when the insurance balance is 0 will automatically shift any insurance balances to the patient's balance. If this is not selected, a prompt to choose will occur. Choosing to have insurance payments clear to secondary insurance balance or patient balance will shift remaining primary amounts to either secondary or patient balances. Auto distribution can be enabled and will go to the oldest outstanding balance. If family is selected, payments will automatically distribute to the oldest outstanding balance within the family. But if the patient is not linked with a family, it will go to the oldest outstanding balance for that patient. Enabling the patient distribution reminder will give you a prompt each time a patient's transaction screen is closed if there is a remaining balance. An option to automatically run check balance when closing any patient transaction screen is also available on the Distribution tab. The Security tab in Office Setup allows the doctor or office manager to set predefined user rights for new MOGO users and certain security measures. The options selected will automatically be reflected in the new MOGO user's rights, allowing or denying them access to certain parts of the program. If a MOGO user attempts to log into MOGO past the time set in their employee settings, an email notification can be sent to an email that can be entered here. If a computer that is not recognized by the office's MOGO network tries to log into the office's MOGO database, a warning message can also be sent to the email entered here. An email notification can also be sent when a MOGO user enters in discounts or adjustments larger than the minimum set here. The Program 1 tab in Office Setup handles a few miscellaneous settings in MOGO. A read-only setting can be enabled, which will prompt the MOGO user to have to agree that they would like to edit the information they are viewing. A time limit to close inactive patient information screens can be set here. A separate time limit can be set for the patient transaction screen. For both of these settings, there is an option to just close the screens without saving, or to save the screens and close without prompting the user. Including formatting when saving quick letters to patient notes will make the note look exactly like the quick letter to make it easier to view. This takes up more space, but is a handy feature if data usage is not an issue. The last setting in this tab is a reminder that can be set for the last MOGO user to run a system backup upon closing MOGO. Please note that this is only applicable to server-based offices, as the MOGO Cloud backs up in real time. The Program 2 tab includes additional miscellaneous settings for the MOGO program. Automatically formatting phone numbers will adjust all numbers to the standard 3x3x4 format. If you know your area always requires the number 1 before each telephone number, MOGO can be set to automatically add the 1. Certain information can be selected to always print on patient route slips, such as silent codes, claim codes, and/or completed treatment. The option to print the patient's picture on the route slip can also be enabled. The default insurance form for new insurance carriers can be set here, as well as an option to update all existing plans to match that default form. A limit can be set for how many days are allowed to print on the deposit slip for users without supervisor rights. Entering 0 eliminates this limit. MOGO includes HIPAA regulation settings for transactions and clinical documentation records that can be set up on the HIPAA regulation tab. Once enabling the Lock Transactions option, all patient transactions will be locked, preventing further editing. Enabling the clinical documentation lock will prevent the editing of EMR notes after the set amount of days. The date and time of activation and deactivation of these settings will be displayed at the bottom of this screen with a date and time stamp. There are 3 settings in the Estimated Insurance tab which need to be addressed. The first 2 settings relate to how estimated insurance and remaining insurance balances are calculated. Checking off the first option will deduct remaining benefits as soon as a treatment is completed. This ensures the most accurate year-end insurance balances for your patients. The next option will deduct remaining benefits from incomplete treatment. This is a handy option when it comes to creating treatment plans for patients. If you create a lot of treatment plans, it would be recommended to choose the Only If Accepted Date Entered option. The third option pertains to receipts and statements and how the system handles credit balances. If the option is checked and a patient has insurance pending, the program will not display any credit balances on receipts or statements. The Auto Treatment Fee Update tab will let the office set preferences for the utility in MOGO to update treatment fees. The utility will update incomplete treatment fees older than the time frame chosen on line 1. The next 3 options determine which treatments are affected, whether they are part of a treatment plan or simply all incompleted treatment. After these settings are calibrated to the office's needs, the utility for updating fees under the Help menu on the patient lookup list can be run. The utility can be blocked by checking off the Disable option at the bottom of the tab. The final Setup tab is for Messages, and it contains 2 settings. When utilizing the inter-office messaging system, you can either have the messages include the original message, similar to how emails display, or not by checking off this option. There are 2 options for how the messages display in MOGO, either as a full message or a simplified one. A full message will contain the text of the message, as well as things such as the sender and if a patient is attached to the message. Offices may want to choose the simplified option so as to not display as much possibly confidential information, as the simplified message does not contain the text. To let the individual user decide how to display their messages, you can choose the Let User Decide option, and no default will be set.